I am a 65-year-old woman, a mother and a grandmother. I never thought that after a lifetime of love and sacrifice, the ones I cared for the most would turn their backs on me in the coldest way imaginable. After 2 weeks away, I returned to my son's house, the home I helped him buy, only to find my clothes stuffed into black trash bags by the front door. A small note taped above them carried words that sliced through me like a knife. Sorry, Mom, no space for you. I froze on the porch, staring at those bags as if they weren't real. The lock on the door that I used to open freely no longer turned for me. The laughter of my grandchildren, once a comfort, was gone. All that remained was silence and rejection. But what my son didn't know, what no one in that house knew, was that I had prepared for a day like this. I bent down, picked up my bags, and walked away without a word. By the time the sun set, I was unlocking the door to a hidden apartment I had kept downtown in Indianapolis. And by morning, after one phone call to my lawyer, the house they had so cruelly thrown me out of was no longer theirs. Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Let me know where you are watching from. You don't know, you might be lucky to get a shout out on our next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you like stories like this. Now let me take you back to where this all began. Life hadn't always been this way. I raised my son, Michael, as a single mother. His father had left when he was just a boy, and I worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. There were nights when I went without food just so he could eat. There were mornings when my back ached from scrubbing floors, but I still found the strength to pack his lunch and kiss his forehead before school. Michael was my world. I poured every ounce of love I had into him. And when he grew up, went to college, and got married, I thought my sacrifices had paid off. I thought I had done right by him. When his wife, Jessica, gave birth to their first child, I was overjoyed. I became Grandma Linda, and I spoiled those children with everything I could give. Cookies after school, bedtime stories, little gifts on weekends. I wanted them to know love the way I had always wanted Michael to feel it. But somewhere along the line, something changed. It started small. Whispers between Michael and Jessica that stopped the moment I entered the room. Invitations to family dinners that suddenly slipped their minds. A shift in Jessica's smile, once warm, now cold and forced. I tried to ignore it. I told myself they were just busy, just stressed. I didn't want to believe that the family I had built with my own hands was beginning to crack. Then came the day Michael asked me to move in with them. My knees were giving me trouble, and I'd been considering selling my little house on the south side of town. Mom, this is your home too, he told me. You don't need to worry about anything anymore. I cried that night, overwhelmed with gratitude. I sold my home and moved into their guest room. I thought I had found my place again. For a while, things were good. I helped with the kids, cooked meals, kept the house clean. Jessica even thanked me at first. I don't know how I'd manage without you, she admitted. And I thought maybe, just maybe, we could be the family I had always dreamed of. But comfort can turn to resentment quickly. Jessica began to snap at me over little things. Don't give them too much sugar, Linda. You're folding the laundry wrong. Maybe let me handle the bedtime stories. It hurt, but I stayed quiet. I didn't want to cause trouble. Then Michael started to distance himself too. The same son who once called me his best friend now barely looked me in the eye. When I asked him what was wrong, he brushed me off. Nothing, Mom. You're overthinking things. But I wasn't overthinking. I could feel it. Something was shifting and not in my favor. The breaking point came when Jessica suggested I take a little trip. She smiled as she said it, but there was steel in her voice. You've been working so hard around here, Linda. Why don't you go stay with your sister for a couple of weeks? A little vacation. I hesitated, but Michael agreed. It'll be good for you, Mom. So I packed my things and left, never suspecting what awaited me when I returned. The moment I saw those trash bags on the porch, my heart stopped. Every memory of sacrifice, every sleepless night I had spent building Michael's future, every moment of kindness I had given, it all came crashing down on me. The house I had poured my savings into to help them renovate. The mortgage payments I had secretly covered when Michael's business had slowed. The thousands I had spent over the years to keep them afloat, all erased with one cruel note. Sorry, Mom, no space for you. I wanted to pound on the door, to scream, to demand answers. But instead, I stood frozen, shaking, while neighbors peeked through curtains at the pitiful scene. At that moment, I remembered something I had done years ago, something no one knew about. A quiet decision I made after a friend went through a similar betrayal. I had kept a small apartment downtown, a place under my name only, and more importantly, I had never taken Michael's name off the legal documents for the house. Because of that, the house wasn't entirely his to control. Tears burned my eyes as I lifted the heavy trash bags and walked away. My legs felt weak, but my mind was racing. I wasn't just walking away from rejection, I was walking toward revenge. That night, I sat alone in my little apartment. The silence was heavy, but I didn't cry anymore. Instead, I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. "Linda," my lawyer answered, his voice groggy. "Yes, it's me," I whispered. "I need your help. Right now." By the time the sun rose over Indianapolis the next morning, papers had been filed. And by law, the house they had thrown me out of was no longer theirs. But Michael and Jessica didn't know it yet. And that was only the beginning. The first crack in their perfect little world came sooner than I thought. 2 mornings after I had called my lawyer, I sat at my small kitchen table in the downtown apartment, sipping bitter coffee from a chipped mug. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. It was Jessica. "Linda, we need to talk. Something weird came in the mail today." I stared at the message for a long moment, the corners of my mouth twitching. I didn't reply. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and let the weight of her worry hang over her like a storm cloud. For the first time in years, the power was shifting. But before I tell you what came next, let me back up. That night after I was thrown out, I hadn't slept much. My lawyer, Mr. Turner, had worked through the night preparing the documents. I was co-owner of the property. They couldn't legally put me out without my consent. And because of certain financial strings I had quietly held on to, the balance of control tilted in my favor. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was fighting for every mother who had ever been tossed aside after giving everything. Still, I couldn't deny the ache in my chest. Betrayal from strangers is painful enough, but betrayal from your own blood? That leaves scars you can't wash away. I thought about Michael, about the little boy who used to hold my hand so tightly at the bus stop. The boy who cried into my arms the first day his father walked out. The boy who once promised, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you forever." Where had that boy gone? I remembered Jessica too. When Michael first brought her home, she was sweet, polite, and always eager to help me in the kitchen. She called me Mom before they were even married. I thought she loved me, but love, I had learned, can be an act. And masks slip when money and pride get in the way. The morning Jessica texted me, I imagined the panic in that house. Maybe she had opened a letter from the county office, or maybe from the mortgage company. Something that hinted that their grip on that home wasn't as tight as they thought. And that was just the beginning of their troubles. Still, I didn't respond. Silence, I knew, was sometimes louder than words. Instead, I went for a walk. Downtown Indianapolis was buzzing that morning, coffee shops opening, workers rushing down sidewalks, the clamor of cars and buses filling the air. For years I had lived in the quiet suburbs, hidden behind neatly trimmed lawns and cookie-cutter houses. But here, in the city, I felt anonymous, free. I stopped at a bakery and bought myself a warm croissant. A small thing, but after the humiliation of being thrown out, it felt like a piece of dignity. I sat by the window, tore the croissant in half, and whispered to myself, "You're stronger than this, Linda. You didn't raise a son alone to end up a beggar on someone's porch." But as much as I tried to stay strong, part of me wanted to weep. I missed my grandchildren, their sticky hands pulling at my sleeves, their laughter when I read them stories, the way they shouted "Grandma" when I walked through the door. Would they even know what their parents had done to me? Or would Michael and Jessica tell them I abandoned them? The thought broke my heart all over again. That night, my phone buzzed again. Another message. This time from Michael. "Mom, please call me. Jessica is freaking out. Something's happening with the house. I don't understand it. We need to talk." I stared at the screen until the message blurred. For the first time in days, I smiled. Not because I enjoyed his distress, though a small part of me did, but because he finally realized I wasn't someone he could just discard. But I still didn't answer. Not yet, because I wanted them to sweat. The next day, I got another call, this time from Mr. Turner, my lawyer. Linda, he said, his voice steady. They're going to find out everything soon. You're on the deed. You're on the mortgage. And because of how you set things up years ago, you technically have controlling interest. I need to know what you want to do. I swallowed hard. What are my options? You could force them to buy you out. You could sell the property entirely. Or, his voice trailed off. Or what? I asked. You could legally evict them. The words hit me like thunder. The same way they had left my clothes on the porch, I could leave theirs. I hung up the phone and sat in silence, my mind racing. Could I really do that to my own son? To my grandchildren? The kindness in me whispered no, but the pain of betrayal screamed louder. And then it happened. Late that night, there was a pounding at my apartment door. Loud, angry, insistent. I froze. Only two people would come looking for me like that. Michael or Jessica. The pounding on my apartment door shook the walls. Mom, open the door. It was Michael. His voice was sharp, almost desperate. He pounded again. I know you're in there. We need to talk. For a moment, I just sat in the dark, my hands trembling against my knees. My mind flickered between anger and heartbreak. This was the son I had loved with my whole being, the one I had sacrificed everything for. And yet here he was, banging on my door only because the ground had slipped from beneath his feet. I didn't move. I let him knock. I let him feel what it was like to be shut out. Finally, his voice broke. Mom, please. Jessica is losing it. The kids are crying. Something came in the mail. Papers with your name on them. What's going on? Why would you do this to us? To us. The bitterness in my chest flared. I thought about the night I came home to trash bags on the porch. The humiliation of reading that note. Sorry, Mom. No space for you. And now he stood here acting like I was the villain. I stood slowly and walked toward the door. My hand hovered over the knob, but I didn't open it. Instead, I pressed my lips close to the wood and whispered, now you know how it feels. There was silence on the other side. Then footsteps fading. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I went through my routine as if nothing had happened. I made tea, sat by the window, and tried to quiet the storm in my chest. But my heart felt heavier than ever. Memories flooded back. The first time I held Michael in my arms, just minutes old. His tiny fingers curled around mine as if he already knew I was his protector. I remember the nights I sat awake, watching him breathe, terrified I might lose him. I remember the years when money was so tight I worked doubles at the diner. My feet would bleed in my shoes, but the thought of him going without was unbearable. Every sacrifice had been worth it. Every ache, every tear. And now this was how he repaid me. Still, a part of me ached for him. He was my son, flesh of my flesh. Could I really cut him out completely? I tried to convince myself I could. But blood ties are chains that pull at your heart no matter how much you want to break free. Around noon, my phone rang. Jessica's number flashed across the screen. I let it buzz 3 times before I answered. Her voice was sharp, almost venomous. Linda, what did you do? Why is your name still on the mortgage? Why are these papers saying you can control the property? Michael never told me this. I leaned back in my chair, calm. Jessica, I didn't do anything. I just never gave up what was mine. That house was never all yours. She hissed through the phone. We let you live with us out of kindness. And this is how you repay us. By trying to take our home. My jaw tightened. Kindness? You called throwing my things into garbage bags kindness. Silence stretched across the line. Then, Jessica's voice dropped low and cold. You'll regret this, Linda. And she hung up. For the rest of the day, unease sat heavy in my chest. Mr. Turner called later, explaining more about the legal process. They don't have much room to argue, Linda. You're well within your rights. But brace yourself. They may fight ugly. I knew he was right. Jessica wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. As the sun went down, I locked every bolt on my apartment door. Something in my gut told me trouble was coming. I wasn't wrong. That night, as I sat reading on the couch, a sound split through the quiet. Glass shattering. I jumped to my feet. My heart pounded as I looked toward the small window above my kitchen sink. The glass was broken, shards glittering on the floor. And in the darkness outside, I swore I saw a shadow move. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the small apartment like a gunshot. I froze, clutching the arm of the couch, my heart hammering in my chest. Tiny shards sparkled on the kitchen floor, moonlight glinting off their edges. "Who's there?" My voice shook, though I tried to sound firm. No answer, just the soft crunch of footsteps outside the broken window. I grabbed the heavy lamp from the side table, holding it like a weapon. My whole body trembled, but I refused to let fear pin me down. I'd been thrown out like garbage once already. I wouldn't be a victim again. The shadow moved. For a split second, I thought I saw a familiar figure. Broad shoulders, the shape of someone I had once rocked to sleep. "Michael," I whispered. Nothing, just silence. Then the shadow slipped away into the night. For a long while, I stood in the middle of the apartment, lamp raised, barely breathing. When the silence finally returned, I lowered the lamp with shaking hands. My knees gave out, and I sank to the floor. Tears pricked my eyes. I couldn't be sure if it was Michael. But deep down I knew. It wasn't the police. It wasn't a stranger. It was family. The next morning, I called Mr. Turner. "Linda, you need to report this," he said firmly. "If they're trying to scare you out of backing down, this is intimidation. Don't brush it off." "I don't want to drag the police into it yet," I said, rubbing my forehead. "They're still my son and my grandchildren's parents. I don't want to cause more chaos for the kids." There was a pause on the line. Then he sighed. "Linda, kindness is your strength, but don't let it become your weakness." His words stayed with me long after the call ended. I tried to distract myself with small things. I baked banana bread. I walked through the farmer's market downtown, picking up fresh tomatoes and sweet corn. I even stopped to chat with a friendly old man selling honey from his backyard hives. For a few hours, I felt normal again. Safe. But the moment I returned to the apartment, the sight of the cracked glass window dragged me back to reality. They knew where I was now. And if Jessica was whispering in Michael's ear, convincing him I was the enemy, then things were only going to get worse. That evening, I sat at the table with the banana bread, cooling on the counter. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. The message read, "You don't belong downtown. You don't belong anywhere. Stop before you lose everything." I stared at the words, my throat tight. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, but I knew exactly whose fingers had typed that message. Jessica's. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the table. For the first time since this war began, real fear settled deep in my bones. And then, before I could even breathe, there was another sound at the door. Not knocking this time. Keys. Someone was trying to unlock my apartment. The rattle of keys at my door sent ice down my spine. I gripped the lamp again, my makeshift weapon from the night before, and crept toward the entrance. The lock clicked once, twice, as if someone was testing keys until one slid inside. My heart pounded. Then the knob began to turn. "Who is it?" I shouted, my voice trembling but loud enough to echo through the tiny apartment. Silence. The knob stopped halfway, frozen in place. Whoever it was, they had heard me. I stood there, lamp raised high, waiting. After what felt like forever, the knob turned back slowly. Then footsteps retreated down the hallway outside. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. Heavy steps moving away. Then silence again. They hadn't gotten in. But they would be back. I could feel it. When I finally lowered the lamp, my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. I sank into the chair at the table, staring at the door like it might spring open at any moment. I thought of Michael again. If it was him, why wouldn't he just knock? Why sneak around like a thief in the night? And if it was Jessica, well, she had always been clever, manipulative, the type to find backdoor ways to get what she wanted. Either way, it wasn't just intimidation anymore. This was invasion. The next morning, I forced myself to take action. I went down to the leasing office and reported the break-in attempt. The manager, a kind woman named Carla, frowned deeply. Do you think it was someone you know? I hesitated, then nodded. Yes, my son or his wife. Her eyes softened. I'll change the locks for you today, and I'll make sure security patrols this floor more often. I thanked her, though the weight in my chest didn't ease. New locks could keep them out of my apartment, but what about my peace of mind? I felt like a prisoner, constantly waiting for the next blow. That afternoon, I called Mr. Turner again. Linda, this is harassment. We need to document every incident, he said. The window, the texts, the attempted entry. If this goes to court, it will strengthen your case. I nodded, though he couldn't see me. I don't want this to become a war. Linda, his voice softened, it already is. That night, I sat at the table with my notebook, writing down every detail. The trash bags on the porch, the note, the broken glass, the message from Jessica, the keys at the door. I paused at the last entry, staring at the page until my vision blurred. My family, my own son, had become the enemy. I whispered into the quiet room. How did we get here, Michael? The next day brought a brief moment of peace. I met with an old friend, Marjorie, at a coffee shop downtown. She had known me since my diner days and had always been a source of comfort. When I told her what had happened, her jaw dropped. Linda, I can't believe Michael would do this. You gave him everything. I shrugged, sipping my tea. It's not the boy I raised. It's the man Jessica molded. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Don't you dare let them break you. You're stronger than this. You've always been stronger than this. Her words wrapped around me like a blanket. For a moment, I felt safe again. But safety never lasted long anymore. That evening, as I walked back into my apartment building, I noticed something on the floor just outside my door. An envelope. No stamp, no address. Just my name scrawled across the front in angry, jagged letters. I bent down, my stomach tight, and picked it up. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "If you don't back off, we'll make sure you never see your grandchildren again." My knees went weak. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. It was war. My hands shook as I held the letter. "If you don't back off, we'll make sure you never see your grandchildren again." The words blurred before my eyes, but the meaning stabbed deep. It wasn't just about property anymore. It wasn't even about betrayal. It was about my heart, those little ones who still shouted "Grandma" when they saw me. The thought of being cut off from them forever crushed me in a way nothing else could. I sat heavily on the couch, the letters slipping from my fingers onto the floor. For a long time, I just stared at it. My mind screamed 1,000 things at once: fight, forgive, surrender, attack. But the loudest thought of all was this: Jessica was pulling the strings. Michael might have signed the note that left me on the porch, but Jessica was the one writing the script. I tried to calm myself with tea, but even holding the mug felt impossible. My chest ached, my stomach churned, and my hands trembled. I thought about the grandchildren. Sweet Emily with her love of drawing, little Jack with his endless questions, baby Sarah who still reached for me when she was tired. Could I really risk losing them? I closed my eyes and remembered Emily's words one afternoon. "Grandma, when I grow up, I want to live next door to you so I can see you every day." The memory nearly broke me. Later that evening, I called Mr. Turner. When I told him about the letter, his voice hardened. "Linda, this is blackmail, and it's emotional abuse. If they think they can weaponize your grandchildren against you, then we need to fight even harder." "But the kids," I whispered. "I can't lose them." There was silence on the line before he spoke again. "Sometimes, the only way to protect your relationship with them is to fight for your rights now. If you don't, Jessica will erase you from their lives completely." His words stung because they were true. The next morning, I decided to act. I dressed in my best clothes, nothing fancy, just neat and strong. A navy blue blouse, pressed slacks, and the small gold necklace Michael had given me on my 50th birthday. I wanted to remind myself, and maybe him, of what we once had. Then I took the bus out to their neighborhood. As I walked past the manicured lawns and quiet driveways, memories flooded me. Birthday parties on that very street. Trick-or-treating with the kids. The years I believed we were a family. When I reached the house, I paused at the curb. My heart pounded, so hard I thought it might burst. Through the front window, I saw movement. Emily, sitting on the floor with her crayons. Jack chasing a toy car across the rug. Jessica in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. And then Michael appeared. He bent down, kissed Emily on the head, and for a moment he looked like the boy I once knew. Tears filled my eyes. But then I remembered the trash bags on the porch, the note taped above them. I clenched my fists. I wasn't just a grandmother. I wasn't just a mother. I was a woman who had been wronged, and I wasn't going to disappear quietly. I turned and walked away before anyone could see me. I couldn't face them yet, not like this. Instead, I went straight back downtown and into Mr. Turner's office. File the papers, I told him. My voice shook, but it was steady enough. If they want a war, I'll give them one. He nodded, his expression firm. Then it's eviction. They'll have 30 days to leave. The words hit me like a hammer. 30 days, and the house I once called home would no longer be theirs. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the city lights outside my window. My chest ached with guilt, but also with a strange kind of relief. For years, I had been walked on, overlooked, and discarded. Now I was finally standing up for myself. But as I leaned back against the couch, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I opened the message and my blood ran cold. It was a picture of me, taken that very morning, standing outside their house. The photo on my phone screen made my stomach lurch. It was me, standing on the sidewalk outside their house, just hours earlier. My head was slightly bowed, my hands clenched at my sides. The angle was from across the street, like someone hiding behind a car or a tree. The message beneath the photo read, "We see you. Stay away." My hands trembled as I held the phone. I felt exposed, hunted. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. It was surveillance. They were watching me. I locked every bolt on my door that night and pulled the curtains tight. But no amount of locks or fabric could ease the feeling that eyes were on me. I barely slept. Every creak in the building made me jump. Every car horn outside jolted me awake. By morning, my head ached from exhaustion. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold, staring at the photo again. Michael wouldn't do this. He couldn't. Not the boy who once slept with a nightlight, because he was scared of monsters in the closet. But Jessica? Yes. I could picture her, phone in hand, smirking as she pressed send. Around noon, I decided to take action. I printed the photo and the threatening letter, tucked them into a folder, and carried them to Mr. Turner's office. When he saw the picture, his eyebrows shot up. "Linda, this is serious. They're stalking you. We could press criminal charges." "I don't want to drag Michael to jail," I whispered. "Then stop protecting him," Turner said firmly. "Because right now he isn't protecting you." His words stung. Deep down, I knew he was right. That evening, I tried to distract myself by cooking. I diced onions, stirred sauce, let the scent of garlic fill the apartment. Cooking had always been my therapy, my way of reminding myself that life could still have warmth and flavor even in dark times. But halfway through, I froze. Someone was sliding paper under my front door. I rushed over and snatched it up before it could touch the floor. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a drawing. Crayon lines on printer paper. A house. A sun. A stick figure woman with gray hair and a big smile. Beside her, 3 smaller stick figures holding hands. And written in a child's uneven handwriting, "I love you, Grandma. Don't be sad." Tears blurred my vision. Emily. It had to be her. Somehow she'd slipped the drawing to me. Maybe through a neighbor, maybe in secret. But it was her. And in that moment, my heart cracked wide open. They could try to erase me, threaten me, even stalk me. But my grandchildren still loved me, still remembered me. That gave me strength. I slept a little better that night, clutching the drawing to my chest. But peace never lasted long. The next morning, a knock rattled my apartment door. Sharp, insistent. Not Michael's pounding, not Jessica's sneaky fiddling with keys. This was different. I hesitated, then called out, "Who is it?" A deep voice answered, "Indianapolis Police Department." Open up, ma'am. My knees went weak. The police? Why were they here? The knock came again, firmer this time. Indianapolis Police Department. Ma'am, please open the door. My legs felt like water as I shuffled toward the entrance. With trembling hands, I unlatched the locks one by one, then pulled the door open. Two uniformed officers stood in the hallway. One was tall and broad-shouldered, the other younger, holding a clipboard. Are you Linda Carter? The older one asked. Yes, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. We received a complaint about you. We need to ask you a few questions. My throat went dry. A complaint? About me? The younger officer glanced at his notes. Your son and daughter-in-law filed a report. They claim you've been harassing them, showing up at their home, taking photos of their children without permission, and threatening them. The words hit me like a blow to the chest. That's not true. I cried. They're the ones harassing me. They threw me out of my own house. They've been sending threats, even trying to break in here. The officers exchanged a look. Do you have proof of that? My hands shook as I rushed to the table and grabbed the folder I had shown Mr. Turner. The letter, the photo, the crayon drawing. I held them out like lifelines. This is my proof. Look at this. They're trying to erase me, to scare me. I'm not the one harassing anyone. The older officer took the papers, flipping through them slowly. His brow furrowed. We'll add this to our notes. But listen, Ms. Carter, family disputes can get messy. Right now, it's your word against theirs. The younger one added, we're not charging you with anything. We just had to follow up on their report. But be careful. If things escalate, it could get ugly. My chest burned with anger and shame. They had turned me, the victim, into the villain. After the officers left, I sank into the couch, burying my face in my hands. How could Michael do this? Filing a false police report against his own mother? The memory of his little boy voice echoed in my mind. I'll take care of you forever, Mom. Was this what he meant? Turning me into a criminal just to protect Jessica's lies? For the first time since the trash bags on the porch, despair truly set in. I had fought, I had stood tall. But now the system itself was being used against me. That evening, I called Mr. Turner and told him everything. Don't panic, he said calmly. This is a tactic. They're trying to paint you as unstable so that when the eviction notice comes, it looks like you're the problem. But remember, you have evidence. And if this goes to court, it will work in your favor. I nodded, though tears blurred my vision. I just don't want to lose my grandchildren in all of this. There was a long pause. Then Mr. Turner said quietly, Linda, if they're willing to drag the police into this, they might use the children as leverage too. You need to prepare yourself. His words chilled me to the bone. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning as my mind replayed the officer's words. By morning, I decided I couldn't just sit and wait for Jessica's next move. I walked downtown to the courthouse and requested the eviction papers myself. If they wanted war, I was done playing defense. But as I was leaving the building, I noticed someone across the street. A woman in dark sunglasses, leaning against a car, phone pressed to her ear. Even from a distance, I knew that posture, that tilt of the head, that smug little stance. Jessica, and she was smiling at me. The sight of Jessica smirking across the street ignited something in me. For weeks I'd swallowed my anger, kept my dignity, tried to fight this battle with patience and evidence. But in that moment, standing on the courthouse steps with eviction papers in my hand, I snapped. I marched across the road without looking left or right. Cars honked, brakes screeched, but I didn't care. My eyes were locked on hers. She didn't flinch. She just lowered her sunglasses and gave me a mocking smile. Well, if it isn't the squatter herself, she said sweetly. How's downtown living treating you? Don't you dare, I hissed. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Jessica tilted her head. Why not? You don't live in that house anymore. You don't belong in our lives anymore. The sooner you get that through your head, the easier this will be. Our lives. I repeated, voice trembling. That's my house, my family, my grandchildren. You married into it. Jessica, you didn't build it. Her smile widened. Oh, Linda, that's where you're wrong. Families aren't about blood. They're about control. And right now, I control Michael. I control the kids. And I control the story everyone else hears about you. The cruelty in her voice cut deeper than any knife. You filed a false police report, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. You're playing with fire. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and suffocating. And you're playing with me. You think your little lawyer can save you? By the time I'm done, no one will believe a word you say. You'll be the bitter old woman who couldn't let go. I wanted to scream, to slap her, to do anything but stand there shaking. But I forced myself to take a slow breath. You may think you've won, I said softly, but the truth always comes out. And when it does, it won't be me who's left with nothing. For the first time, her smile faltered. Just a flicker, but enough. I turned on my heel and walked away, my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. Back at my apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, my body trembling from the confrontation. I should have felt proud. I had finally stood up to her face to face. But instead, an emptiness settled over me. What if she was right? What if her grip on Michael, on the children, on the story itself was too strong? I clutched Emily's crayon drawing in my hands, staring at the little stick figures smiling under the sun. That was my truth. That was my proof that love still tied me to them, no matter what Jessica said. I swore to myself I wouldn't let her erase me. A few days later, I was jolted awake by the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was a text message from an unknown number. My heart pounded as I unlocked it. There was no text, no threat, just a photo. A photo of Emily. She was standing in her bedroom, holding a stuffed bear, her little face pale. And in the background, scrawled on the wall in thick black marker, were 3 chilling words. Grandma stays away. I stared at the glowing screen in my hand, my breath caught in my throat. Emily's face, her small hands clutching her teddy bear. And behind her, those chilling words painted across the wall. Grandma stays away. My body went cold. It wasn't just a message for me. It was a warning delivered straight through an innocent child. I dialed the number that had sent the text. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then the call was declined. I tried again. This time, the number was disconnected. God, I whispered, pressing a hand to my chest. What are you doing to her, Jessica? I paced the apartment, heart hammering. Should I call the police? Report child endangerment? But Jessica was clever. She twisted around, accused me of harassment again, and Michael would believe her. Yet doing nothing wasn't an option. I pulled the photo up again, zooming in on Emily's face. Her eyes weren't just sad, they were scared. She hadn't written those words. Someone had made sure she was in the picture while they did it. And I knew exactly who. By the next morning, I was sitting in my lawyer's office. He studied the photo on my phone, his lips pressed in a grim line. This is disturbing, Linda. Very disturbing. If we can prove this was orchestrated by Jessica, it strengthens your case tremendously. But what about Emily? I asked, my voice cracking. She's in that house right now. What if Jessica is scaring her? What if I couldn't finish the thought. My lawyer leaned forward. We need to be careful. If we push too hard, Jessica could convince Michael to cut off all contact between you and the children until this is settled in court. But if we move strategically, I snapped. That's my granddaughter. She doesn't need strategy. She needs someone to protect her. The room fell silent. Finally, he sighed. I'll file a motion for temporary visitation rights. If we can get you legally permitted to see Emily and her brother, we'll have the chance to observe their well-being directly. It's not fast, but it's safe. I nodded, though my stomach twisted with frustration. Safe wasn't enough. That night, alone in my apartment, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing Emily's frightened little face. What if Jessica was punishing her for reaching out to me? What if she was telling Emily lies the same way she had with Michael? The more I thought about it, the more unbearable the silence became. So when my phone buzzed just past midnight, I snatched it up instantly. It was another message, from another unknown number. But this time it wasn't a photo. It was a video. I tapped it open with trembling fingers. Emily's voice came through the speaker, shaky and small. Grandma, she whispered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. I miss you. Please don't tell Mommy I called. Please. The video cut off suddenly, mid-sentence. And for the first time in my life, I realized I might be the only thing standing between my granddaughter and real danger. I must have replayed that video 50 times. Emily's little face, her darting eyes, the way she whispered like someone might catch her, it tore my heart in two. She wasn't just sad. She was scared. I sat on the couch in the dark, the glow of the phone lighting my trembling hands. My mind raced. I could take the video to the police, but what would happen then? Jessica would claim I faked it, or worse, that Emily was manipulated into recording it. Michael would stand by her side, like always, and then they would cut me out for good. The thought made me nauseous. I gripped the phone tighter. No, I whispered to myself. Not this time. I'm not letting her suffer because of Jessica's poison. For the first time since this nightmare began, I thought about breaking the rules. The next morning, I drove by the old house. Slowly, carefully, I circled the block twice. The curtains were drawn, the driveway empty. Emily's pink bicycle was still leaning against the side fence. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. That house used to be mine. Every flower in that front garden, every nail in the porch rail, I had placed with my own hands. And now, I was a stranger circling it like a criminal. I whispered to myself, if she asks me for help again, I'll go. I don't care what the papers say. I don't care if Michael hates me. I'll go. That evening, I forced myself to slow down, to breathe. I brewed a cup of chamomile tea, curled up on the couch, and tried to remember better times, Christmas mornings when Michael was little, when he used to run to me first to show me what Santa had brought. Summers at the lake, when we'd roast marshmallows and laugh until our stomachs hurt. How had those memories soured into this? How had my own son turned so cold? Tears stung my eyes, but I wiped them away. I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. Emily needed me strong. The next night, just past 11, my phone buzzed again. I snatched it up, heart racing. This time it wasn't Emily. It was a live call, a FaceTime request from another blocked number. I hesitated only a second before answering. The screen flickered, and there she was, Emily, sitting cross-legged on her bed, clutching her teddy bear so tight her knuckles were white. "Grandma," she whispered, her lips trembling. "Can you come get me? Please? I don't like it here. Please come." My chest squeezed, so hard I could barely breathe. Before I could answer, the bedroom door behind her creaked open. Emily's eyes went wide. The phone tumbled sideways, the camera flipping to show only the ceiling. Then a sharp gasp, a woman's angry voice, and the call went black. I sat frozen, phone still in my hand, my heart pounding in my ears. And that was the moment I realized Jessica knew. She knew Emily had been reaching out to me, and she wasn't going to let it happen again. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face, her wide, terrified eyes as the door creaked open. Her little voice, begging me to come get her. And then the sound of Jessica's fury. By sunrise, I was still pacing the apartment, my phone clutched in my hand, my heart pounding. Enough, I whispered to myself. Enough waiting. Enough hoping the system will do something. I won't let her suffer another night in that house. I grabbed my keys. I drove with no plan, only instinct. The streets of downtown Boston were quiet at that hour, but inside my car, it felt like a storm was brewing. What was I doing? A 65-year-old grandmother, ready to throw away her freedom for one reckless act? But then I remembered the video, the whisper, the plea. "Can you come get me?" Yes. Yes, I could. I parked a block away from the old house. The curtains were still drawn. The driveway was empty. Emily's bike was gone this time. That made my stomach twist even tighter. I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached. What if I just walked up and knocked, demanded to see her? But Jessica would call the police in a heartbeat, and I'd lose any chance of protecting Emily. So instead, I waited, watching. I waited for hours until my back ached and my eyes burned. At last, movement. The front door opened. Jessica stepped out, purse slung over her shoulder. She locked the door, glanced at her phone, and got into the car. The engine started, and she pulled away. The house was empty. My pulse thundered in my ears. This was my chance. I slipped from the car and hurried to the side gate. My hands shook as I lifted the latch. The yard was exactly as I remembered, but different somehow, like a stranger had draped a veil over my memories. I crept to the back porch, where once I had sat with Michael, sipping iced tea while Emily played in the sprinklers. Now, the sliding glass door loomed before me like the entrance to an enemy fortress. I tried the handle. Locked. I bent down, my fingers brushing the flower pot by the steps. A sick, ironic laugh escaped me when I found it. Michael had never changed the old hiding place. The spare key was still taped underneath. My son hadn't just stolen my house. He had left me the means to walk back inside. I slipped the key into the lock, turned it. The click was deafening in the silence. The door slid open. The air inside smelled faintly of lavender candles and fresh paint. Everything was neat, perfect, cold. But then, faintly upstairs, a sound. A child's voice. I froze, listening. "Grandma." My heart leapt to my throat. I rushed up the stairs, nearly tripping in my haste. I followed the voice down the hall to the small bedroom at the end. Emily sat on her bed, teddy bear clutched to her chest, eyes wide with disbelief. "Grandma," she gasped, leaping up. She threw herself into my arms, trembling. "I knew you'd come." Tears poured down my cheeks as I held her tight. "Show, baby. I've got you. I'm here." But then I heard it, the low, menacing growl of an engine pulling into the driveway. Jessica was back. The sound of the car door slamming outside sent my blood ice cold. Jessica was back. Emily clung to me tighter. "Grandma, don't let her see you. Please." I glanced around the room, my mind racing. There was nowhere to hide, no closet big enough, no window I could open without being heard. The heavy thud of Jessica's heels echoed against the driveway, then up the front porch steps. The door lock clicked. "Emily." Jessica's voice floated through the house, sharp and suspicious. "I'm home." My chest rose and fell so fast I thought I might faint. Emily's small hand slipped into mine. Her whisper was barely audible. "Please don't leave me." The front door opened. I could hear her setting down her purse, the rustle of bags. I had seconds. I pulled Emily close, crouching to her eye level. "Sweetheart, listen to me. Whatever happens, don't be scared. I won't let her hurt you." Her little chin trembled. "Emily." Jessica's voice was louder now, moving toward the stairs. "What are you doing up there?" Panic clawed at my throat. I had no plan, no escape route. My only thought, protect Emily. I grabbed the chair from beside the desk and wedged it under the doorknob, just as Jessica's heels began clacking up the stairs. "Emily, answer me." Emily pressed into my side, clutching her teddy so tight I thought the seams would pop. The shadow of Jessica's figure darkened the hallway. She reached the door, tried the knob, stopped when it refused to turn. A sharp silence, then a slow, chilling laugh. "Well, well," she said softly, voice dripping with venom. "So that's where you've been hiding." My heart stopped. She knew. She knew I was inside. The doorknob rattled violently. Then Jessica's voice, louder, almost gleeful. "Michael is going to love hearing about this." Emily gasped, burying her face in my chest. I held her tight, whispering, "Don't be afraid, baby. I'm here." But deep down, I knew this was the moment everything would change. And I had no idea if we'd make it out safe. The rattling at the door grew violent. Jessica shoved, pounded, cursed. "Open this door, old woman," she screamed. "You have no right to be in my house." I pressed my back against the door, holding Emily close, my breath trembling. "Emily, don't let go of me, no matter what." Her tiny arms clung tighter. The banging stopped. Silence filled the hallway. For a moment, I thought maybe Jessica had given up. But then I heard the shrill sound of her voice downstairs, her heels clattering furiously on the steps. She was calling someone. "Michael." I could hear her tone through the floorboards, sharp and full of venom. "Your mother broke in. She's in Emily's room. Yes, right now. You better get here before I drag her out myself." Emily whimpered against me. "Grandma, Daddy's gonna be mad." I stroked her hair gently. "Show, baby. Don't be afraid. Truth has a way of coming out." But my hands were shaking, my heart racing. I didn't know what would come first, Michael storming through that door or the police. Minutes felt like hours. Emily and I sat together on the bed, her little hand in mine, her eyes darting to the window as if she could escape the nightmare around her. Then, the sound of tires screeching outside, a car door slamming, heavy footsteps on the walkway. Michael was home. The front door burst open. His voice roared through the house. "Mom, what the hell are you doing here?" Jessica's heels clicked quickly to meet him. "She broke in, Michael. She's poisoning Emily against us." "Daddy," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. I stood, squaring my shoulders, though my knees threatened to buckle. The stomp of Michael's boots up the stairs rattled the house. The chair under the doorknob shook as he slammed into it from the other side. "Open this door right now." Emily screamed, burying her face in my side. "Michael," I said, my voice steady despite the terror inside me. "You need to hear me. Please." The banging grew louder, angrier. "You don't make the rules here, Mom. This is MY House, my family." I held Emily tighter. My voice broke but didn't waver. "If you walk in here right now, you'll see the truth with your own eyes. Look at your daughter. She's scared of her own mother. Does that sound like family to you?" The pounding stopped. For a long, unbearable moment, there was silence. Only Emily's sobs filled the room. Then Michael's voice, low, seething. "You've gone too far." The sound of keys jingling. Jessica's hiss, "Let me do it." A click. The lock turning. The chair scraped violently as the door was forced open. And there they were, Michael, red-faced and furious, and Jessica, smirking with triumph. My son's eyes burned into mine. "This ends tonight." He stepped forward and Emily screamed. The door swung wide, slamming against the wall with a crack. Michael filled the frame, his face crimson with rage. Jessica hovered at his side, arms crossed, her smile wicked and triumphant. Emily clutched me tighter, trembling so badly I could feel her heartbeat racing against my ribs. "Get your hands off my daughter." Michael roared, taking a step inside. "Daddy, no," Emily cried, squeezing her teddy so hard I thought it would tear. "Grandma didn't do anything. Please don't hurt her." Her little voice cracked, raw with fear. For a moment, Michael froze. The words seemed to rattle in his chest, shaking the fury for just a second. But Jessica slithered closer, her hand on his arm, whispering poison. "Don't listen to her, Michael. She's a child. She doesn't know what's good for her. Your mother is manipulating her, just like she always manipulates everyone." "Michael," I said softly, keeping my eyes locked on him. "Look at your daughter. Just look at her. Does she look like a child who's safe in her own home?" Emily's small frame shook like a leaf in the wind. Tears ran down her cheeks as she whimpered, "I don't want to stay here anymore. Mommy scares me." Jessica's face snapped toward her, eyes blazing. "You ungrateful little brat." Michael's head whipped around, his mouth parting. He stared at Jessica, stunned, as if he'd heard something he couldn't unhear. That one moment was all I needed. "Do you see now?" I asked, my voice rising, my heart pounding with courage. "Do you see the truth you've been blind to? She doesn't just hurt me, Michael. She hurts your daughter. The same way she's been whispering lies into your ear, tearing this family apart. She's the danger here, not me." Jessica stepped forward, her mask slipping, venom spilling in every word. "Don't you dare turn him against me, you old witch. Everything we have is because of me. This house, his career, his life, I gave him all of it. You're nothing but dead weight." The words rang like knives in the room. Michael's fist clenched, his chest heaving. I stepped forward, shielding Emily behind me. My voice was no longer trembling. It was fire. "You put my clothes in trash bags and threw me out like garbage. You left your own mother standing on a porch with nothing but a note. But what you forgot, Michael, is that I built this life too. You didn't take care of me. I took care of you. And I'm done being silent." Jessica sneered. "You have no power here." But I smiled then, slow, deliberate. "Don't I?" Michael frowned, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" I looked him dead in the eye. "I called my lawyer the same night you threw me out. By morning, this house was no longer yours. I own it. All of it." The color drained from Jessica's face. "You're lying." But Michael's eyes widened. He knew. Deep down, he knew I wasn't. I gave you both a chance to treat me with love and respect, I said, my voice steady as stone. Instead, you chose betrayal. You chose cruelty. Now you'll face the consequences. Emily peeked from behind me, her tears slowing, her eyes wide with hope. Michael staggered back a step, shaking his head, his anger crumbling into something else, fear. Jessica lashed out, grabbing his arm, shrieking, "Don't you see? She's ruining us. Do something." But for the first time in years, Michael didn't move. He didn't defend her. He didn't scream at me. He just stood there, hollow, as if everything he built was collapsing under his feet. And it was. I reached for Emily's hand, pulling her close. "This house isn't yours anymore. Emily and I are staying. You too." I pointed toward the door, my voice sharp as a blade. "You can leave." Jessica's mouth twisted, fury twisting her pretty face into something monstrous. "You can't do this to us." "I already have," I said calmly. Michael stared at me one last time, his lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Only silence. Jessica dragged him by the arm, spitting curses, her heels clattering down the stairs. The front door slammed, rattling the walls. And just like that, they were gone. Emily climbed into my arms, resting her head on my shoulder. "Grandma, are they really not coming back?" I kissed the top of her head, holding her as tightly as I could. "No, sweetheart. Not anymore. You're safe now." For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not because the battle was over, but because I had finally chosen myself. And as I stood there in that quiet house, Emily safe in my arms, I realized something powerful. Betrayal can break you, but it can also build you into someone unstoppable. And this time, I wasn't just surviving. I was winning.